co-chair Sharon Day, not just for the very nice introduction, but for really making the office of co-chair just that. It's not vice chair, it's not second in command, it's not someone that's going to be kind of go off to the side. It's someone that is a co-chair and has taken a real leadership position, and so many of us around the country are grateful to that. And so I want to spend a couple of minutes talking not just about my experience as a candidate, now as an elected official, but and the importance of why it is that we should have more. Why are we having this conversation? And the most important point to start off with is to piggyback on what you said, is that this is not a 1 hour, we have a problem with women, let's just go ahead and take care of it in this panel, and then yay, pat ourselves on the back, ooh, we did a great job. That is not, the first thing we have to do is admit that we have a problem. Admit that we have an issue with whatever it might be, either in translating messaging to votes, in translating a desire to run for office, in women to run for office, but whatever it is, there is a problem, there is a gap, and we can't just keep going around and saying, well, hey, we won married women, woo, that's great. That is not, so step one is, we have a problem, let's move forward. And part of that, part of the solution to that, is expanding the role. So each and every single one of you in this room, no matter where you are, and I imagine most of you are probably committee man or committee woman from your area, is to say that make it a point that at every single opportunity you have in your quarterly meetings and these, in these meetings at the RNC, is that this is an issue that needs to be highlighted. So starting off with a formatting suggestion of saying, next time that this conversation happens, this is something that should not have any conflicts with anybody else. We all have to sit around and talk, because if not, then as a self-selected group, and thank you for being here, but this is a self-selected group of people who have come here probably saying, yeah, we know we have a problem, we need to fix it, but there's a bunch of other people that are in other meetings right now that maybe are thinking, we don't have a problem, we don't really have to go listen to that. So I hope I don't get in trouble for saying all of that, and I hope you guys invite me again, but that is something that has to be said, in that this is not a 1 hour discussion that we just kind of pat ourselves on the back and move on. So the first question that I was asked to talk about is, why should women run for office? And I think there's a very simple answer, more than anything, because there's more of us than there are them. And so if we want our voice, our perspective to be reflective as a party of the nation, we better make sure and ensure that there are more women that are elected, because if not, we will continue to be marginalized and referred to as a party that lacks diversity. I'll say that in a nice way. I wanted to say something else, but I don't want to get in trouble again. So, but we need to start looking different, and so we need to ensure, and we're going to encourage that there are more women running for office, and every single woman that's here should ask themselves, why am I not running for office? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a calling for everybody, but you need to ask yourself, what obstacle am I putting, sometimes to myself, a lot of times as women we put our own obstacles. Why am I not running? And for those of you that are men, you find the woman and ask the woman in your life, either your daughter, your wife, your neighbor, or someone, and say, why aren't you running for office? Why, if I know that you are someone that is a conservative woman that holds my values, why have you not run for office? And that is a challenge that each and every one of us has to accept and has to move forward with, or if not, we will continue to be marginalizing ourselves as a party, and that is an incredible disservice. So what were kind of my experience as a candidate, and one of the questions posed, what were the obstacles that I had as a candidate, and I think that that's something that we in general, I think as a party, need to stop assuming that there is an obstacle to running for office because you are a woman. It's like we're handicapping ourselves. There are no different, there are challenges, there are issues, and I can talk about that for hours and hours. But to start the conversation by saying, you are a woman, you want to run for an office, therefore there must be an obstacle, is the wrong conversation to have. I'm not saying that my path was easy. It was definitely a challenge. Today, in my little Instagram Throwback Thursday picture, someone texted me my first campaign flyer. And so, I mean, there I was a 27-year-old young girl, living at home with my parents because I was not married, and that's what Cuban girls do. You stay at home until you get married. And I questioned myself for about 2 minutes and said, why is someone going to vote for me? I'm 27, I'm this, young kid, I just graduated from law school. And then I started thinking, you know what? For 2 reasons. Number one, look at the rest of the people that are already elected. If they can do it, I sure as heck can do it. And number 2, I have accomplished more in my 27 years of life than the rest of these guys that are running have in their entire lives. And so I've had a 6-way primary, my first race, 6-way primary, and I got 55.5% of the vote. So the guy that came elected and had been an elected official, but it was because we outworked, we out-messaged, we did a better job, and when faced with 2 decisions of someone who's going to do a good job and someone who is maybe not going to do as good of a job, invariably people are going to vote for the person that's going to do a good job. And since then I've been blessed to have been re-elected because my actions have followed up with my words. But if we don't encourage, if we don't put women in that situation, then we're going to continue to be this self-perpetuating problem, I think, that we have, which is why we're having this conversation. So I don't think that we should keep saying that you shouldn't assume that there's an obstacle to running for office because there's a woman. There's an obstacle to anybody that runs for office. Different obstacles, but the fact that you're a woman should not be an obstacle. That should not be the issue, that should not be the problem. So I think we should stop saying that. And lastly, because I said I was going to talk for a short amount of time so we can have lots of time to ask questions, is the issue of resources. What would be resources that would be helpful to women? And so I have some specific ideas. I think the issues of mentoring is something that's important. And if we all could go back and as homework, go back to your home state or home county and find someone to mentor, or perhaps find someone to mentor you. That's something that each and every one of us in this room should do. But one of the biggest challenges that exists, and I think women sometimes we buy into this argument of the issue that there's a challenge in raising money. And we all know that what makes, not politics go around, what makes the world kind of go around is you need money to get your message out. You need money to get volunteers. You need money to do that stuff. And as women, we have a tough time asking people for help generally. And we specifically sometimes have a tough time in asking people for money. And I learned early on that none of my male colleagues had a problem with calling up someone and asking a donor for the maximum amount and asking for the maximum amount from them, their wives, their co-workers, and everybody they knew. And people respected them more for that. They respected more my male colleague who'd ask for whatever amount than I would call and say, well, maybe it thinks that it would be possible. You can't talk like that. We have to get over that, and we have to say, I'm asking you for money. This is how much money this is how much money I'm asking for, and people will respect you when you talk to them that way. So I think one of the very important things that perhaps the party can do, and this goes at the national level or at the local level, is to have intense teaching, moments of how do you ask for money? How do you, because it's not something that we're used to doing. And now here you are, you're asking your friends, and you're not asking your friends for $5 for a Coke, you're asking them for, obviously some more money. So how do you ask for that? How do you go out and target and say, these are the individuals that have given in the past, this is how much they've given, this is how much they can give. Don't let them get away with saying, I can only give you X. Because that's not true, because they gave the rest of the people. We have all this data, this much money. So I think that is an important teachable thing. And the second thing, and then I'll be quiet, is that as women, we have to be okay with tooting our own horn. And sometimes that gets translated to mean that you are a variety of different things, and a strong personality is a nice way of saying that. But our male colleagues toot their own horn all the time. And it's okay, and it's expected, and somehow when a woman does it, she comes across as pushy or as something else. Well, you know what? Pushy and other things get you respect. It just does. So you have to be okay with saying, I have done these things. I have accomplished this. This is what I intend to do when I'm elected to the school board, state legislature, higher office, whatever it is. And then you go out and you have to do them. But you have to be okay with saying, I am that person. I did do those things. Thank you very much, and that's why you should continue to re-elect me, or you should re-elect me. So those are some quick kind of scattered thoughts. I hope that there are lots of questions so that we can help guide this conversation in moving forward and making it so that this is not just kind of a little 1 hour, hey, we did a great job thing. This is a real conversation across the entire country of saying, how are we going to ensure that this gender gap is totally eliminated? So again, thank you all very much. We appreciate it. Look forward to your questions.